Thank you, Fawaz, for the kind introduction, and then also for handling our busy meeting today. And then greetings to the other Toastmasters and guests joining us today. Do you often ask, or have you been asked, what's for dinner tonight? This question also, and along the lines of what's for lunch, what snacks am I going to pack to take with me to work today, have become part of my routine on most days. And over the past couple of years, maybe the past 3 to 4 years, that I've noticed that I think about these questions a lot. What am I going to eat today? And what am I going to eat? When am I going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And I've noticed it so much that I've consulted with a nutritionist and a food coach to try to alleviate my worry about food. And I've learned a couple of tips from them, but then I've also found that I still think about what and when I'm going to eat. And recently I've been researching weekly meal planning to see if that will help kind of alleviate the stress that I have around food and meals. And I've been looking at websites like thekitchen.com, and also the CDC and myplate.com are pretty good resources for meal planning, as well as the American Diabetes Association. And today I'll share some of the parts of my proposed meal plan, including some of my requirements and some of the steps that I've included in my plan, as well as the benefits that I expect from it. The first things that I've considered when putting my plan together are my nutritional requirements, how much protein, carbs, vegetables, and fruits I need in a day, and then also the fact that I prepare most of my food at home. And when I started to look online for meal plans, I noticed that a lot of the top websites that would come up are based off of pre-made meal plans like Blue Apron, where you can subscribe to a plan where they send food to you, that you pick your meals and they send it through you throughout the week, or that they were trying to get me to try out new recipes on their website, and even fancy colorful meal guides that I could download and fill in. And I still found these sites very stressful. And I started digging more and more, and I wanted information that would help kind of teach me how to put a meal together and not do the work for me, or make it seem like I had more work to do, or worry about when these packages from Blue Apron are going to come. And by the way, I have tried Blue Apron, and the meals are delicious. And that's one of the things that I've come across to thinking about this plan is I don't have to go it alone, that it is okay sometimes to get help and to try out new recipes from Blue Apron. But I still want to be able to prepare most of my own meals and to help support my own health. And that brings me to my next point, which is that my plan has to be simple for me to follow it. I made a list of recipes that I know and that I like, and that's what I'm sticking to for now. Many of the websites, and this includes the kitchen and the websites that are more geared towards new recipes, encourage you to add new recipes to your meal planning in order to add variety, but I found that that was a bit overwhelming to me as well, and that I started collecting a folder of a bunch of unused recipes. While they might be exciting, they don't help the fact that I haven't actually looked at them and haven't used them. So I decided to stick with what I know and to add in a little bit of new foods to try, a little bit at a time. For example, this week I've been adding little sweet peppers to my salads for lunch, and they've been pretty good. And it was just a small addition. I didn't have to plan a brand new salad. It was just one small little thing to add some variety. I also want to bring back batch cooking into my plan. A few years ago, I started stocking different types of nutrients. So I would have a variety of proteins, a variety of vegetables, and a variety of carbs on hand. and I would mix and match during the week. And I thought I was free of doing any kind of meal planning, where now I just put together meals for lunch and dinner as I go. But I found that it made me think about food even more than I had remembered maybe 5, 6 years ago. Because now I have all of these options and all the different opportunities that I can have for putting these meals together. And I ended up cooking more, thinking about food more, and even changing my mind throughout the day. I would start off like, well, that sounds really good for lunch, maybe an egg salad sandwich with an orange. But then I'm like, well, I also have bananas. Maybe bananas would taste better than that orange I was originally planning on. So that got to be too much for me. Then I went back to thinking about what worked for me in the past. And I remember in graduate school, I used to cook either soup or chili over the weekend, and that I can eat throughout the week. And I realized that it wasn't boring. I thought that having this free-floating plan of having like the separate components and matching them up throughout the week would give me more variety. But I think I like the idea of having something that I stick with throughout the week. So say it be a chili, a soup, or kind of a meat with different sides. Isn't actually as bad as I thought it would be. And going back to graduate school, I remember that I could focus a lot more on my classes, on the work that I was doing in the lab, rather than what am I going to eat and how am I going to prepare it. And in my current plan, I want to be able to cook meals that I can eat for at least 3 to 4 days at a time, so that I don't have to do this constant cooking and preparing food. In the highlights of my plan, or over the weekend, I've been starting to look at what my week ahead looks like. So what meals do I need to make and how much time I have to prepare each meal? Can I try something complicated I might not have tried in a while? I look around my apartment in ads to look at what food is available and then start building recipes on that food and fill in my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, at least for Monday through Friday. I figure out the food that I need to buy and I go out and buy it over the week after I have that plan in place, and then prepare most of it on Sundays, cooking maybe the main parts of the meal through Monday through Wednesday or Friday, and then on Wednesday or Thursday going and kind of doing either like not a restock, but building back up and maybe cooking a couple more things for the rest of the week. And I hope by following this plan that I'm going to think about food less and I'll have more time to do the activities I actually enjoy, like walking, talking with my family and friends on my phone, and not asking the question, what's for dinner, so much. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Fawaz. So, Nikki, I really enjoyed your topic today about meal planning. Based on what I have heard from the internet, meal planning and laundry are two of the biggest woes that people have for some reason. I don't know why. I love both. But you marked out a very articulate plan on how you were going to get started on meal planning, how you were going to add in different things so it wasn't the same thing over and over again, and then how it was going to benefit you. Nikki, I feel like you really excel at facial expressions and vocal variety. I would have liked to see more of it throughout, but when it happened, I think it was when you were talking about bananas versus oranges, I got drawn in. Once you started, changing up the facial expression and vocal variety, it really helped to bring your speech to life. So I would say to put those more throughout your next speech. I also liked your organization. You did give us a little backstory. You laid out some steps or some things that we could look forward to in this speech. And I heard that you were going to tell us about the setup, the steps, and the benefit. Unfortunately, I think that the benefit section got cut short, and there was much more on the first 2 points. And I would have personally liked to hear more about benefits so that I could be then inspired, not that needed, but that other people could be inspired to meal plan because it has all these great health benefits. So I would say the organization was good, but it was a little weighted toward the first two. Lastly, I also enjoyed that you ended it on a very nice quip, the "What's for dinner" quip. Having kids, I get asked that question. If you have a significant other, you get asked that question. You ask your question to that yourself all the time. It would have been great to also start with some sort of quip like that and then bring it all together at the end, because that is something that we always hear from those who might live around us is "What's for dinner?" And I really liked how you ended it with that question, even though it was at the end of your speech. Now, some things that I would challenge you to work on is hand gestures. I don't really remember your speaking style when we were in person, but I would imagine that you may have more hand gestures, whereas virtually, you're great with the face, you're great with the vocal variety, but bringing in some more hand gestures would have been great, especially when you were talking about like bookmarking things on the web or, things like list over here. Some hand gestures would have made it even more effective. And the second thing is the speech was given very straightforward, to the point, 1, 2, 3, 4. But in Toastmasters, we often are encouraged to think about, is this speech informational? Is it inspirational? Is it going to be humorous? And I thought this speech was perfect for inspirational because, like I said, a lot of people on the internet complain about meal planning. They don't know how to do it. They don't want to get started. They might share similar things to you where you don't like cooking or cleaning up. And I would have loved to hear that in the speech and be inspired then to say, you know what, I hate cleaning and cooking, but I can still meal plan. How does that work? How can that work for me? So again, it was a great speech, great topic, because a lot of people do find this challenging. I thought you had great facial expressions and vocal variety. I would love to see more. And if you want to improve on something for next time, it would be hand gestures, and perhaps also thinking about what the delivery method of the speech is. An informational speech is a great speech to have, but I felt like this was more, it could have been more inspirational, but that's up to you. So thank you again, Nikki.